Hi everybody, my name's Jon. I grew up in the outback of Australia with my mum, my dad and my three older brothers on this tiny little farm out in the middle of nowhere, and it was a tiny little pig farm that we had, and it was one of those sort of battery pig farms where it's just all the pigs are in a shed and they're all in these tiny little pens where most of them just stand up and sit down. That's all they do for the entire time. And when I was 6 years old, in the middle of the night, I snuck up to the pig shed and I set free all of the pigs. And then I ran back down and I jumped into bed, and this wasn't some sort of animal liberation thing. I was a 6-year-old kid. I thought I'd wake up in the morning and, a pig would be driving a tractor. I thought a pig would be doing the dishes, a pig out the front just doing knitting while sitting on a rocking chair. I thought that would happen. And I woke up in the morning to my dad shaking me awake, and he took me up to the pig shed, and none of the pigs had moved. All of them just stayed in their pens, and my dad just said, "See? They want to be here. I hope you've learned something." And that is the kind of man my dad is. He's a "I hope you've learned something" type of man. He's a very serious man, my dad. Very serious and stern and impatient. And this tiny little farm in the outback of Australia had to have a hand in everything me and my brothers did. So we had to work with him on the pig farm every single day. And on weekdays we would go to school. Dad was my school teacher at school. And I don't mean a teacher at my school, I mean my teacher at school. And so I saw him every single day, and he wasn't just a school teacher either. He was also the bus driver. So he'd pick us up from our house, drive us to school, teach us at school, and then drop us home, and then we'd work on the pig farm with him after that as well. So I saw him every single weekday from morning to night. And so all we had were weekends. Weekends were our respite from Dad. And all you do when you grow up in the outback of Australia, all you do on Saturdays is play sports. Dad was my football coach, my basketball coach, my tennis coach. He was everything in my life, this man. So all I had was Sundays. Sundays were my times off from Dad, and all we do on Sundays is me and my family would go to church. Dad was the minister at the local church. He was everything in my life, this very serious and stern man, and he was also a man, he says he's never said a swear word in his entire life. Now, can any of us say we've never said a swear word? No, we're all normal people. There's a great release, frustration and anger, and Dad gets very frustrated and very angry, but he says he's never said a swear word in his entire life. And anytime he'd catch us swearing, we'd say, how is this possible, Dad? How is this possible that you've never said a swear word? And he had the same answer every time. He'd just say, there are other words you can use, and there's no need for that kind of language. And I'm not kidding, I've seen him walk around the back of the car at nighttime and hit his shin so hard on the tow bar of the car that he's just dropped to his knees, looked up at the moon, raised his fist and just yelled, "Curses!" He yells curses. Like a Scooby-Doo villain, he yells curses. These are the words he doesn't even call them farts, mate. He calls them blow-offs. He's trying to make farts unfunny for every child in the world. And the other thing he does is, instead of swearing, is he just screams his feelings. So he'll be out working on the farm, and we'll just hear this, "I'm angry! I'm annoyed! I'm upset!" He just screams his feelings. That's what he does instead of swearing. So we grew up with this very stern, impatient man, and when I turned 18 years old, farm life wasn't for me. I left the farm, I moved to the city, I went to university, I studied the arts, and I became a vegetarian. And that's who I became. I was 18 years old, studying, and around this time, my second oldest brother, Alf, moved to a place called Kangaroo Island. It's a little island off the coast of South Australia. It's this beautiful natural wonderland. It's got all those animals that you tourists want to see, all the kangaroos and wallabies and koalas, all these animals. And there's no introduced species on Kangaroo Island, so the local flora and fauna is allowed to thrive. And my brother Alf, he moves to this little island, and I'm going to university. It's university holidays, and my dad loves Kangaroo Island. He's never been anywhere else in the world. He's never been on a plane. He's never been anywhere else. And he's got the same excuse for not traveling anywhere. And he says, "Why would I need to go anywhere? Kangaroo Island is right there." And I will say to him, Dad, I've been to Japan and places like that. He says, "I've seen Japanese people on Kangaroo Island. Why wouldn't you go anywhere else in the world?" And so he goes to Kangaroo Island every single weekend, visiting my brother. And it's university holidays, and I go to visit my brother on Kangaroo Island. And of course, he's my dad. He's managed to get a job on Kangaroo Island as a minister at the local church. And I go to visit my brother on the weekend. We go to church. Dad is the minister. And then after church, he also gets his other job going hunting with these local farmers and these hunters, hunting these wild pigs, which are the only introduced species on Kangaroo Island. And after church, he says, do you want to come hunting with me? And I say, no, I'm okay. And he says, you just want to come and check it out. It's in this beautiful national park. It's the best part of Kangaroo Island. Do you want to come and check out this national park? And I say, okay, I'll come and check out this national park. And so Dad and I, we jump in this old truck and we drive to this national park. There's a big shed out the front of the national park, and there's all these farmers and hunters just loading up these trucks with guns and then driving off through this national park hunting these wild pigs. And Dad says again, are you sure you don't want to come hunting with me? It's really fun. And I say, no, I don't want to do that. And he says, that's okay, I'll organize for a ride back to your brother's house, but before you do, just help me load up this truck with guns. And Dad hands me a gun. Now, I don't know if any of you have held a gun before. I don't know, I'm in America, you're all probably holding right now, including this kid, but Dad hands me a gun. And this weird sense of power comes over me. I feel the weight of this gun, and it's the first time I've held a gun, and I think, oh wow, this is awesome. I want to shoot something. I want to shoot something. And Dad says, great, okay, let's go hunting. And then me and Dad, we jump in the truck, we drive off through this national park, we park the truck, and for the next 3 hours, Dad and I go hunting these wild pigs. After 3 hours, Dad has shot 6 wild pigs. I have shot none. I enjoy looking through the scope, through things far away. I like following birds and stuff like that. I like jumping out from the bushes and going, pow, pow, pow. I'm having a really good time. And Dad keeps thinking I'm going to shoot something when I'm not, and all of this sort of thing. And he's getting very annoyed with me because he's screaming I'm annoyed. And he says, look, you're annoying me. Do you want to shoot something? And I say, no, Dad, I'm having a really good time. I feel like I'm in Predator or something. I put mud under my eyes and I'm skulking through the bush like this. And Dad says, no, I'm going to find you something to shoot. And he disappears off through these trees. And he comes back about 10 minutes later and he whispers, I found you something. And I follow him through these trees. He tells me to look through the scope of my gun, through the bushes, and I look through my scope and I see a pig. And it is a big pig. And it is just laying in some mud. And it is a bunch of little babies just running around and suckling to its teats. And I'm looking at this sleeping mother pig and I think, I can't do this. And Dad just whispers in my ear, it's easy. And I say, I know it's easy, Dad, but this is a little bit fucked, don't you think? And he says, there's no need for that kind of language. And I'm looking at this sleeping mother pig and I say to my dad, I say, do I have to shoot the babies as well? And he goes, no, you shoot the mum, they'll die by themselves. Oh. I'm looking at this sleeping pig and I think, I can't do this. And Dad says, it's easy, you're helping. They're an introduced species. They ruin the environment for the local flora and fauna. You're helping. They're a pest. You can do this. So I sit and stare at this mother pig for what feels like forever. And then I think, no, man up. You can do this. And I get the pig's head in my sights. I close my eyes and I pull the trigger. When I open my eyes, I see Dad's back in front of me. And I see him just drop to the right. And I have just shot Dad in the back. And he swings around as he grabs himself right the chest. Blood starts coming out from between his fingers. His eyes are wide. He looks at me dead in the face and he just says, you fucking shot me! That's the first time he's ever said a swear word. He just unleashes this tirade of abuse. He says, you effing shot me. I am effing dead. Do you know where we are? We're in the middle of nowhere. I am effing dead. You have effing killed me. And secretly in the back of my brain, I want to go, there's no need for that language. But I don't say anything. I'm in shock, just standing there. And then he says, I can't believe it's you. Out of all of my sons, you're the one who kills me. The vegetarian. The city boy. And then he pulls out his phone, he throws his phone at me and says, call mum, tell her you've killed me and I'm dead. And I get his phone and I dial emergency. 911, I'm not an idiot. I dial emergency and I say, I've just shot my dad. And they say, where are you? And I say, Kangaroo Island. And they say, we need you to be a bit more specific than that. And I say, we're in a national park, people hunt pigs here. And they say, we think we know where you are. There's a property about 1 kilometre away. Do you think you can get him to that property? Well, we can bring the helicopter in to pick him up. And I say, yeah, he seems okay. And I tell my dad, we've got to get to this property. He knows where it is. And he says, give me your jumper, you sweater. And I take off my jumper, and he uses the sleeve of my jumper to stuff into a hole into his chest. I have to hold the jumper into his chest as I carry him back to where we've parked the truck. I put him in the passenger side. I run around to the driver's side. I start the truck up, and I can't drive a stick shift. And this is a big old truck with one of these things on the steering wheel. And all I do is I start it up, I grind it into a gear, and we bounce forwards and stop. Dad screams in pain. I start it up again, I grind it to a different gear, and we bounce forwards and stop, and Dad screams in pain and then turns to me and says, get out. I get out of the driver's side, I walk around to the passenger side as Dad slides along the seat, leaving this trail of blood across the back of the seat, and drives himself to this property. Now, all they've told me to do on the emergency line is just to make sure that Dad stays awake, which is good now that he's driving. And we get to this property, the helicopter is there, they take Dad out of the truck, they load him on the helicopter, I get on the helicopter, and we get taken to the mainland, to the hospital. For free, by the way. That's free. You can go to the hospital for free in every other country. But and I get to go as well. I'm not even injured. I also get to go for free on the helicopter to the... I know it sounds crazy, but universal healthcare is a real thing. And we get taken to the hospital, and the only thing I remember after that is my mom walking out from the surgery. And I'm just sitting there, and she says, he's going to be okay. He's lost his collarbone, and he only had very little blood left in his body when he got here, but he's going to be okay. Do you want to go in and see him? And I say, no. Eventually I do go in and see my dad. And he's just lying in the hospital bed, all rugged up there, and he does that same thing again. He looks at me in the eyes and he says, I hope you've learned something. But you know what? I think my dad learned something on that day. And that's that sometimes it is necessary for that kind of language. Also, I learned something else. About 7 years later, I find out that a bunch of my dad's mates and friends have almost shot him multiple times because he bloody jumps in front of people when they're about to shoot something. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for Crow, and thanks, Nicole. Thanks for having me.